A student asked recently, what's the difference between public and private? Well, let's take a look at an example to illustrate this. Uh, Here's an elephant class, and you'll notice that I have a lot of public-private words here. Basically, everything's public except the instance variable on this class. So if we go over to, the short answer to this question, right, is that private a private keyword before a variable like this or a method like this. Private means that the uh, only code inside this class can access or use that variable or method. So code in other classes would not be able to use this weight variable directly. So let's just see what happens if we make this public so that code in other classes can use this variable. Seems sensible anyway. Got a funky video thing going on here, I notice. So let's take a look at this class. I have I create a new elephant, I assign its weight, and then I print out its weight. Let's see what happens. Oh, invalid method return type required. Yeah, my mistake. Return type void. Thank you. Job. All right, we'll do this again. That had nothing to do with what we were illustrating here. Elephant is negative 100 pounds. So because I was able to call this instance variable, I was able to access this instance variable of weight from another class, from the main class. I was able to set this weight to be whatever I wanted. And as if you were the developer of the elephant class, you'd probably be like, I don't think I want people setting elephants to be negative weight. So what we do to prevent that then is we make this a private instance variable, which means that now when I come over here and try to run this code, I cannot access my code. Java does not allow this code in the main class to access that weight variable because it's private. And you see the error I get here. Weight has private access in elephant. Error, weight has private access, and it won't let my code compile because I'm actually using it twice, right? Here it wants to set it and wants to print it. So what we typically do as Java developers to get around this is create setter methods and in order to set the weight. And then you also notice over here, like when I tried to get the weight, I couldn't get it because it was private. So I'll create a getter method as well. So I'll take this and just paste it in here. And let's say it's get weight. And so I need to change the return type to an int, and there is no parameter. I'm just getting the weight, and then I can return weight. Right. So now that I have done this, I have my private instance variable, and I have my public setter and public getter methods. Now I'll come back to the main class here, and let's change it up to make use of those now. So when I want to set a weight, I can't access the weight variable directly, so I'll use the set weight method. If I can type it instead. And then I can't get the weight here, so I'll use the get weight method instead also. Now let's run it. The code should run fine now. Yep. So whoops. So I have a elephant is negative 100 pounds. So the code is all working well. But remember, the reason why we did this in the first place was to prevent accidental or nefarious actors from giving invalid weights to the elephant. So I'll have to come back to my elephant code here. And now I have all the flexibility that's given to me as a programmer to write some if statements in here and prevent this weight from being negative to check for a reasonable weight. So let's say if W is less than 0, weight gets 0. So if somebody else tries to set the weight to be a negative number, we'll just override that and set it to 0. and then else we can set it to be whatever we wanted. So now let's run that code, and we'll see now the elephant is 0 pounds, because when I call that set weight method with a negative number, that conditional will catch that and set it to 0 instead. But this is an elephant, so maybe the minimum weight's like 100, 1,000 or something like that, right? You could also use the same approach to set a maximum weight, that sort of thing. So coming back to the question, right? Public versus private. The key difference there is that private keyword prevents variables from being accessed by code outside of the class. And the reason that you would use private is to prevent invalid data from being set there. So typically, and as far as this course, this AP course is concerned, you would have all of your instance variables be private, and your constructors and other methods in a class be public. The class itself can be public. Sometimes you'll see the keyword actually not there, and that defaults to mostly public. There's a little more nuance in there that is outside the scope of this class, but for as far as you're concerned right now, you'd either leave it blank or do a public class. So if you want to read more about these private and public keywords and maybe some of that nuance that I just hinted at there, one good resource you could use is, it's not going to let me flip over to this tab. Well, I got to figure out how to do that in my screen recorder, but there's a tab, another link you can go to. So just going to this link, actually, maybe I can put that right in here and go to it. This is a W3 Schools page, which is a good resource on Java modifiers. So this shows you how the public keyword is an access modifier, right? And there's a couple different access modifiers like public, private. There's another one called protected, some other things like that. There's also non-access modifiers. You may see some of these pop up in our code as well. You don't need to know all of these, but this is just in case you were interested in learning a little bit more about those other modifiers. Okay, so that's it for public versus private.